Hi, everybody, and welcome to our premiere live signing. I am Sarah Sargent from Random House Children's Books, and I am so delighted to be here today with author, meteorologist, New York Times bestselling author, and NBC host Dylan Dreyer. Dylan, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh my goodness, this is so exciting to be back. I remember doing this last year and I had just had Rusty, so things are a little bit different this time around, and I'm so happy to be back.
Amazing. And congratulations on the publication of the new book, Misty the Cloud, Friends Through Rain or Shine. Oh my gosh. What a labor of love. I know. How's it feeling to have book 2 out in the world?
I was comparing it yesterday to, sending my oldest son off to first grade. It's like all this prep work, all this stuff goes into it, all the build up, and then it's finally, okay, I hope this works. I hope everybody likes it. I hope everybody is, happy with what we put out there, because we put our heart and soul into it. And and it's here. And I mean the book, Calvin too, but I mean the book.
Of course. Well, we are so excited to chat today about how you are, how the kids are, about the book. So for everybody tuning in, you have an opportunity. You see the URL up on the screen to buy the book, and Dylan will have it autographed and, have your own very special Misty the Cloud book. So Dylan, why don't you tell us about how this book came to be? It's book 2. What went into this process for you?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for everybody tuning in today. I was able to, last year I didn't do any live signing events, and this time around I do have some live signings, but I realize that they're not scattered all over the country. So it's hard to, get the chance to see everybody in person, to get you an autographed copy. So I'm so happy we have something like this with Premier Collectibles to be able to get you a signed copy. It's like we're meeting in person. I hope you get something out of this little chat that we're going to do. But this is such a great alternative when you can't get everywhere at once, especially when I have 3 kids at home. So traveling isn't always that easy these days. But it's so exciting for me to continue this whole world. When we first came up with it, my husband and I, it was just sort of this daydream we had 10 years ago. And we really thought that we could come up with all these different parallels between emotions and what kids are going through, and the weather, which is something they look out their window and experience every single day. So we have all these different storylines, and we're so happy to be able to bring you this next one that really this time involves compromise and sharing and kindness with your friends. And it's a classic situation. I've got a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old. The 1-year-old kind of just sits there for right now. But the 5 and 2-year-old are constantly, wanting to do things their own way. I want him to play this way. I don't want to play that way. Well, I want to do this. I don't want to do that. And it's like, guys, figure it out. Because if you come up with a compromise, everybody's happy. If it's not always about sharing, but it's about giving a little on each end, and you end up coming up with something new. And in this particular book, this whole back and forth is happening between Misty and her cloud friends and Ray and her sunbeam friends. And really beautiful things happen when you have a raining cloud and a bright sunbeam working together. And in this case, it's a beautiful rainbow. And as I like to do with all these books, is bring the science to the kids. If you want to take it that step further, the back of the book is filled with all the science behind why rainbows happen, why they form, and, some experiments that you can do at home, and little fun facts just about rainbows. And I love being able to bring the science to kids if they want to take it that step. But if they don't, the message of, compromise and sharing is still there for them too. Look at that.
It's really exciting. Yeah, it's exciting to see. Also, we've got our new character, Ray, the sunbeam, and I will find the rainbow. It's on the cover of the book, but also find the spread to be able to show people. So
and speaking about Ray, Rosie Butcher is so incredible, because when we first came up with this idea, I knew I wanted sun and clouds, but the sun is such a an overpowering figure. It's the sun, and the sun's there no matter what, if it's cloudy or if it's not cloudy, the sun is always there. So we kind of morphed this idea into more of a sunbeam. And then it was the challenge of, well, how do you illustrate a sunbeam? Does it have arms and legs? Are they attached to the sunbeam's body? How are we going to make this work? It just didn't seem possible. But I explained it to Rosie. I sent her some pictures off the internet. I'm like, I imagine, the sunbeams, and like, is there any way you can bring them to life? And she sent us this illustration of Ray, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you brought her to life. I can't believe you did it. And all her sunbeam friends. She just somehow makes this whole world in my head come to life on paper. She's incredible.
Yeah. It's an amazing process to see. Now you've done it 2 times and, many more. We have more books in the pipeline. So still just the beginning. What was the kids' reaction to the book? Do they have a favorite character? What can you share?
Well, it's fun because, as soon as this book was in production, I had read every iteration of it to Calvin and to Oliver, so they saw it when it was just a Word document. And then they saw it when there were some sketches without color. And then they saw it when it was, bright and colorful. And I didn't know what their reaction would be when they actually saw the hardcover book arrive. And I wish I had my camera rolling because it was the most genuine squeal of excitement. Both of them. Calvin goes, "It's here!" And his voice hits this note that I can't even replicate. And he was just so excited to see it in person. We stopped everything we were doing and we just read it right then and there. And it really is so awesome to have kids this age, the age that these books are intended for, to have those kids in my house and get their feedback as soon as they see it. And the feedback's been good, which is exciting.
I was going to ask how the reviews have been.
The reviews have been very good, and it's funny. There's some lines in there that Calvin, every time I read the line, he's like, "I like that. I like that a lot." And I think it's fun also for them to see new characters because clouds are clouds. And I'm excited that we can do different things with the sky, and in this case to bring Ray into it. And Calvin's excited to see new characters and, clouds shapeshift. And you can see right there's, Misty's back looking like herself, but you've got Kelvin there looking like a water spout. You've got Nimby there looking like a little whale. And this actually, it's funny you turn to that page because that's the page Calvin loves when Scud says me too and Nimby says me 12. And it's like, I think you mean 3. Calvin just likes that whole moment in the book.
Yeah, and then you've got your sunbeams, huh?
Which is so cool. And I would love to, we list a whole bunch we list a whole bunch of different games that they play. The sunbeams are trying to play Funny Sunny, and the clouds are trying to play 1, 2, 3, Can't Catch Me. And it's so fun to imagine what those games really are. And that's another thing Rosie did. She introduced a football, she introduced some flags, and she really brought to life these imaginary games that these clouds and sunbeams are playing. And when they work together, there's even more games. And I don't know, I could see us trying to, go into those games a little bit more and, maybe kids can play them at home.
Yeah. And how is this publication feeling different? I mean, we were here a year ago. How is it feeling different from your first one?
I feel like this time around, first of all, it's nice to not have, a 3-month-old or 2-week-old in the background. I mean, Rusty was just born. I was literally just started maternity leave. So it's nice to not have him so little because I think I was pretty spaced out during that whole launch of the first book. But now I feel more like it's legit. It's real. This is a world that we've brought to life. The first book, we're just sort of putting it out there to people like this world. You never know. It's something totally different. A world up in the clouds is something that has never existed before. And here we are trying to bring it to life. Well, now we're expanding that world. We're introducing more characters. And, I think people are actually excited to see what happens next and where we can go from here. And as you and I know, there's so many different ways. You asked me for my ideas for the next book, and it's like, well, we could do this, this, or this. And it's like, well, how's that going to work? It's like, well, I think it could work this way. And we together just create the world and continue to grow it. And I think that's what's so exciting this time around is that we are growing this whole world up in Horizon.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was the response from, I don't know how much response other than your children you've gotten to this book that's a day old, but What was the response from readers, about the first book? What are some of the things you remember as like touching you the most that people said?
Well, that's what was so special about yesterday, getting to meet people. We were at a bookstore in New Jersey, and I was able to meet some kids that were on the line. And while you're online with the book, they can read the book before they get to me. And there was one little girl dressed in a dress that had rainbows all over it.
Oh.
And another girl had more of, spaceships on hers, but I would love to take, Misty and the whole space world too. But that's way down
okay.
when we run out of earthly weather events. But what's so cool is to have younger boys and girls, because this book is for both boys and girls. That's what's fun. Weather unites us all. It's something we all experience. And yes, rainbows were on her dress, but I feel like boys are just as interested in rainbows too. There's nothing more magical than when you're outside and you see a rainbow form, especially when it's, this overarching rainbow and you see your house underneath the rainbow, or you see a park underneath the rainbow. I mean, it's so fascinating that is like this paintbrush that's taken to the sky. So that's one thing that's so fun. And the kids were just so excited to dress up like what the next book is going to be. And for their parents to say, we read this every single night. We read the first one every single night. We're so excited to have the second one. And that's one thing that's so special to me, because I am that mom who also reads various books over and over and over again, the same book every single night, because kids just like to repeat things. And the fact that it's my book that's being read over and over and over again is so truly special. And I can't thank people enough for welcoming it into their homes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I know that, as an editor, it's amazing to hear that too, just to know that people are reading it again and again. And, there's nothing, it's so beautiful to hear that you're really affecting kids, Dylan. Not a surprise.
Yes.
The book is so much effort on your part. So I'm glad that people are loving it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. What else? So as you proceed with your launch, any other things that people should be looking out for, that you have in store, anything you're looking forward to?
Well, besides getting the opportunity to talk to people, answer questions, and I just am so excited between the book festivals and just to meet people in person, because I think not only, I've gotten so much feedback from my kids, during the whole editing process. And every time we have a new edit and running it by Calvin and now Oliver, it's so fun to hear their take on it. But when I talk to people, it's so interesting to hear what their favorite part of the story is, or what they like about Misty, or do they have other characters that they're drawn to? If Calvin is the one they're drawn to, let's maybe wrap a story around Calvin. It just kind of gives me some ideas. And even as the day goes on, different things happen that I never thought could be a story before. And, it's, well, have you thought of this, or have you thought of that? And it's like, that's a really good idea. There's a way we can bring this to life, and we can work this into a story, and we can make those parallels between emotions and weather. And I can't wait for each new book to come out, because I think it's just an endless amount of ideas that we can come up with, and meeting people will help those ideas come to life.
Yeah, absolutely. And a reminder that Halloween is coming up. So if you need a costume.
Yes. Clouds would be a fantastic costume. I feel like there's a lot of cotton balls in people's future.
I know. If your kids are wondering what they're going to be for Halloween this year, it's going to be that. Well, again, we are talking today with Dylan Dreyer, author of her most recent book, Misty the Cloud, Friends Through Rain or Shine, a lovely book about compromise. You see the URL on the screen below, and you can place an order and get it personalized. So, Dylan, I'm going to go ahead and head over to our audience questions and see what people have to say.
Okay.
So,
I love this part.
Yeah. Ditto. So Laura from Florida, thank you so much, Laura, for your question. Wanted to know, considering your love of the Kentucky Derby, any thoughts of writing a book about it and the hats that women wear?
Ooh. Let's see. First of all, Lauren, thank you so much for the question. I absolutely love the Kentucky Derby. I've covered it 8 years in a row now, perhaps. I don't know how I got, the opportunity to go down to the Kentucky Derby, and I go out to Royal Ascot for the big horse race that they have out there too in London. And It's funny because if I think about it, when you say horse race and I'm thinking in the world of clouds, a mare's tail comes to mind. And it's actually a type of cloud that's named after the fact that it looks like a horse's tail. It's wispy, and then I'm thinking of wispy. This is how my brain works when I'm trying to put these books together. So maybe there's a horse race or something up in the sky, and there's all these mare's tails, but those wispy clouds usually indicate that there's a warm front coming or some kind of stormy weather coming. It's not a fair weather cloud. It indicates that there's going to be change. So maybe that's the way the book starts off, and there's this horse race with all these mare's tails, but then there's change on the horizon, and there's going to be something different that comes on into town. And if people are watching a horse race, what Rosie could do with, the hats and the different outfits that these other clouds could be wearing. This is exactly what I mean. By talking to people and hearing these questions, we can come up with a whole new idea for the next book. So, that just got me really excited, and it's possible to come up with something like that. And Alan, my co-author, he always brings the wit and humor. So if I just run this idea by him, he'll have his crazy ideas, and I think we could put together something nice.
I know. I was thinking, do we have hats in the current book? I feel like party hats are kind of the
party hats.
Those are our only current hats, Laura. So I feel like we have more
but
room.
Rosie could have fun. She could dress up some hats.
Exactly. Again, Laura, thank you for your question. So our next question, I'm unpracticed in this name. So Shireen from Kansas. What made you want to come out with another children's book, and will this series continue on?
Great question. Yes, as soon as we finished the first book, I knew I wanted a second book and a third and a fourth and a fifth, and I could just go on and on with different ideas. As you just heard, me coming up with the next idea. So yes, this is definitely a world that we want to keep going. The weather changes every single day. There's mostly cloudy, there's partly cloudy, there's mostly sunny, and that's just basic weather, but there's also the other events, the severe weather events that I'd like to work into stories, not just so I don't want people to be scared of, hurricanes and tornadoes, but to show the importance of them, and also to show why they need to, why there are warnings issued when hurricanes and tornadoes happen, so I could go into the science of them and working those into these books so that kids understand what they're all about. But that being said, we also, the next book to come out in this series, we have a couple of step into reading books, which is so fun and so exciting because it just happened to work out that Calvin is the perfect age for these first two picture books. And by the time the next book comes out, which is the Step Into Reading book, he'll be the perfect age for the Step Into Reading book. So he can continue to be my editor on these whole things. Sorry, Sarah.
All good. I've never been confused about the true editor on this project.
So it's so much fun to be able to introduce this book to different ages because, again, weather is something that is for all ages, even for adults. And parents can learn something, too, as they read these books and learn about the weather and are able to explain it when kids ask questions about the weather. So, and then after that, we have a couple of, we haven't really gotten to those yet, but the last two in this whole series for now is, some novelty books. So I have a lot of ideas to introduce this to the younger age group, like my Rusty. So yes, this is a world I want to keep going as long as Random House will let me keep it going because I have so many ideas and I love sharing the weather, whether it's regarding emotions or whether it's regarding the science. I love to bring everything about it to all of you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for the question. Tyler from Texas wants to know, what's the main theme you want your young readers to gain?
I think my main theme across all of these books is kindness. And even when I go and talk to our interns, at the Today Show, they say, what's your best advice for someone trying to grow in this business? And my best advice is to be kind to everyone around you. There's going to be times when you're above someone or you're below someone, but at every point in your career, when you're kind and you talk to people and you just, share a little bit about yourself and let them share some of their selves, when the time comes that you need to ask someone for help, They're there to help you because they like you. And it's important that you build that world around you so that people want to help you, and it helps to open doors for all the different things you want to do. And yes, the first book was about anger and trying to control your, your frustrations. Misty in the first book, Very Stormy Day, she just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and then everything kind of piled, and she just got more and more upset as the day went on. And in the cloud world, it turns into a big thunderstorm, but it's all about, okay, let's take a deep breath. Let's just focus on the good things around you right now. Let's stop focusing on all the bad things that are piling up around you. Let's just find some, find good things around you. And she does. And in this book, it's about everybody's frustrated because they're not sharing, they're not compromising. The sunbeams are in the clouds' way, the clouds are in the sunbeams' way. But again, let's just take a deep breath and let's work this out. So it's all about just, let's step back from the situation we're in right now. Let's take a deep breath and let's regroup and let's figure this out together, and let's just be kind to each other. And that's my overarching message with all of these books and everything. I want joy, I want happiness, I want friendship, I want kindness. And we are allowed to have all different emotions, and some of them are ugly, but it's how we handle those emotions that is the takeaway with these books. And I hope it helps a little bit.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And to think too, you can be kind and angry. Like they're,
yes.
Both are possible. You can have all of your emotions and still be a kind, loving.
Exactly. It's just what you do with those emotions and how you take them out on other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for the question. So Brent from Grafton, Wisconsin said, "Hi, Dylan. My wife is a very big fan of yours, and we are actually expecting our first child."
Oh, yay!
We aren't finding out the gender, so would you want to make an official guess, boy or girl? And do you have any advice to new parents? Thanks for your books. They will be so much fun to read to the new nugget. Thanks again, Brent and Kristen.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, first of all, Brent and Kristen, congratulations. I'm so excited for you. This is such a wonderful time. And my guess is I'm going to go with a boy because that's all I know. And everyone around me recently has been having boys. So I'm just going to keep that trend going. But when it comes to that new kid, I remember, and we did a story on it on the Today Show, how nervous I was about having my first kid because I didn't think I really wanted to have kids up until that point. My husband and I were living in New York City. We went out to dinner whenever we want. We had our dog. We'd run her in Central Park every morning. And it was just, I loved my life. And do we really want to mess up our whole routine, And the second you have that baby, you're like, yes, I want to mess up this routine. I want to change my whole life. My whole world now revolves around this baby. And I remember with the first one, it's harder because, you want to sleep and you can't just sleep. You can't just do things that you want to do when you want to do them. Your whole schedule goes out the window. But babies do sleep. So you need to just make your schedule work around the baby for, the first couple of months until they get back on your schedule. And it's just, if I could go back to myself when I had just the one kid, I would say, those first couple months, yes, they say do tummy time all the time. You're always supposed to put the baby on their tummy and do all this tummy time. It's okay to just let them sit there a little bit. They really don't do that much. And in the first 3 months, especially when you're recovering and you're trying to get used to this whole new world with the baby, it's okay to just let them sit there. Don't feel like you have to play with them all the time. And I don't know if that's like good advice, but I look back, now that Rusty, my littlest, is crawling all over the place and getting himself stuck under chairs. And, I'm always kind of, where's Rusty, looking all around to see what he's gotten himself stuck in. And it's like, oh, remember when he was 2 months old and you could just plop him on a pillow and he would just sit there? Like, appreciate those first 3 months where you can let him just sit there as you adjust and find your new normal. That's my advice.
That's beautiful. Well, Brent and Kristen, thank you for the question and congratulations and good luck. And, thanks for making readers. Carmen from New York said, "What led you into broadcasting? Did you know from a young age that that's what you wanted to pursue as a career?"
Not even a little bit. I'm kind of shy by nature. I don't love public speaking, if you can believe it. I don't love walking into a crowd. I don't like being the center of attention. In school, I was very book smart. I loved my math and science, and I knew I wanted to do something with math and science. And then I went to school for engineering, and I was kind of not interested in any sort of particular field of engineering. And my mom's the one who pointed out to me that all my calculus and science credits would transfer to meteorology. And I was like, oh, I really like weather. I've always liked weather. I would sit outside on my front porch and watch the thunderstorms come through. And I just was fascinated by it. So I said, let me give that a try. And then I kind of got really into the research end of it. And I did some internships at different locations, and I was making, really intense forecasts for different companies. And then I had an internship at WCBS in New York City, and I was taking the bus from New Jersey into New York City 3 times a week. It wasn't paid, so it was like an out-of-pocket experience to take the bus every day and walk, 20-something blocks to get to CBS because I couldn't afford a cab. And I just love the whole TV side of things. I like this idea of sitting at a computer, making the forecast, making the graphics, and then being able to share it with people in the moment. And at Rutgers at the time, it was either, you were part of one school or you were part of the journalism school. And I never applied to the journalism school, so I didn't have any experience in broadcasting or TV. And it was really after I graduated college that I started small in Erie, Pennsylvania. I worked my way up to Providence and Boston, and I never had any intention of making it to the Today Show at all. It just was this sort of snowball that kind of happened, and it took me to where I am today. So I just allowed the process to happen. I just did my job, kept my head down, and kept working hard at every step of the way until I got to where I am today. So it just sort of happened, and I let it happen that way. Yeah.
It's funny when you're talking about creating something and then putting the graphics to it and then sharing it. I was like, what does that sound like?
That's true. Apparently I like to do that. So this wasn't in the cards for me.
Thank you for the question. And Tommy from Indiana had a similar sort of related question, which I don't think you actually did answer, but what did you want to be when you grew up? Which was not what you are. So yeah.
Right. It's funny you say Indiana, because I'm in a random hotel in Indiana right now because I'm out here doing a story for the Today Show, actually. So that's why I'm in this like weird location right now. But anyway, growing up, I would think I always wanted to be a teacher. I would play school in my house all the time. And I don't know if it's because I grew up with 2 older brothers who never really wanted me to play whatever they were playing, but I had a chalkboard and I had a marker board in my bedroom. My mom's friend was a teacher, so she gave me real textbooks, that had questions in them, and they had activities that you could do with your students. And I never had students. Like, I didn't even have friends come over to like pretend to be students. These were imaginary students that were in my class. And I would write on the chalkboard, and I would teach these imaginary students just random things from these random books that I got from a teacher friend of my mom's. So it was probably makes sense a little bit now that I like to explain things in a way that kids can understand. So maybe all that alone play kind of got me to where I am today, because I do explain weather on TV for a living. So somehow, some way it was connected, but I would have thought I would have been a teacher.
Yeah. Well, you're not a teacher is what
exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Teaching people to weather.
Yeah. All right. Caroline, or perhaps Carolyn from Florida, said, what was your inspiration behind the characters in this book? And if you want me, Dylan, let me know. I'll hold up images of the ones if you'd like.
Yeah. Well, Misty came along first, and she was just our original basic cloud character that we brought to life. And I picture her as just a cumulus cloud, the clouds that you see up in the sky, they're always changing shape. And then I knew I wanted to have a different variation of clouds. So, and it was more the names that I had a lot of fun with. So I knew one cloud would kind of be a little wispier. I thought that was a good descriptor for, for a cloud, was wispy. And scud is actually a type of cloud, like they're just little scud clouds in the sky. They don't really develop into much. They're just like these little clouds. And Kelvin is actually a form of a type of temperature. So instead of the Fahrenheit scale or the Celsius scale, there's the Kelvin scale. So I had a lot of fun with the naming of these characters. And NIMBY, of course, is Alan came up with that one because of a cumulonimbus cloud, but he's the baby cloud, so he's like NIMBY. So we just thought that was a really cute name. Claire and Tyler, I think, are just to represent a typical brother and sister, the older sister, the younger brother dynamic, and kind of mirrors the clouds up in the sky. I'd say NIMBY and Tyler are sort of similar in that they're innocent and ask silly questions and just have, no cares in the world. And then you have Misty and Claire, who I'd say are pretty similar to each other, because I really wanted the things that they were going through to mimic each other. So in this particular book, Claire has to share her birthday party with Tyler because their birthdays are close together. And it's like, let's just have one big party instead of having two parties. And Claire doesn't want to share her birthday. She's sick of sharing her birthday with her little brother, Tyler. And in the sky, Misty, it's also her birthday, too. She's not sharing with her little brother, but she's sharing with, Ray up in the sky. So there's a lot of thought that went into the particular characters. I really wanted to introduce the sunshine character because the sun and clouds, especially going forward, will play off each other a lot. And we haven't named all the sunbeam friends yet, but I think they'll have a bigger role in the future. And there's so many more clouds that I don't know. Will I come up with new characters, or will we allow these characters to transform and form into other clouds as real clouds do? So, yeah, it's fun. I had a lot of fun coming up with the names, and Rosie really just brought all of them to life and gave them all just a little something different, so they stand out and you can tell who's who.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the question. Liv. Oh, topical. What from Louisiana? What encouragement would you have for an elementary aged student starting at a new school this year?
Well, I had to give all that encouragement myself. So Liv, that's a wonderful question. And luckily, Calvin was very excited about school. It's a lot easier to sell something to a child when they're actually excited about it. Yeah. But I was nervous. To be honest, I was really nervous. Calvin went to a Montessori preschool, which is totally different than, a traditional first grade public school. So I was nervous, but I found the things that I knew he would like. So Calvin, I know you love making new friends. You don't even understand how many new friends are going to be here, girls and boys, and they're going to like different things, and there's going to be new friends. You've been with the same friends in your school for so long, but wait until you get to meet new people and get to learn different things about different people. And then I just tried to kind of tap into my nostalgia of school. Like, Calvin, you're going to have a desk, and I bet the desks are going to be pushed together, and you're going to have a buddy desk, and your friends are going to be around you. And you get to eat lunch in a cafeteria. You don't have to eat lunch at your same desk. And my favorite thing in school was going to the cafeteria, and you get to buy lunch there if you want to, or I can pack you lunch, whichever you want. And he's like, I think I really want to buy lunch at school. And I said, okay, this is great. He comes home the first day. He's like, I didn't really like the hamburger I had at school. I ate it because I felt bad. I didn't want to throw it out. But tomorrow, can you make me lunch? I'm like, yes, I'd love to make you lunch. I've got that new lunchbox for you, So it's just every little new thing. I tried to sell it in a way that made it exciting and different, because I think new things are fun. And yes, it can be scary for sure. And having a new teacher and having new friends. And I feel like all those things can be scary. And if I had to do it, I would be terrified. But I just tried to make new fun and exciting as opposed to scary and different.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah. And it's a similar sort of like riffing on that question is a question from Dresden in Arkansas, which is, what advice would you give to a kid on making friends? And what advice would you give to an adult trying to make friends?
Oh my goodness. That's a really good question, because I have a hard time myself making new friends. And I think, let's tackle the adults first. I often talk to my husband about this because say I'm with, I'll use Chanel as an example, who I co-host the show with. Chanel will go on a shoot and she'll interview somebody and she'll take that person's phone number and they'll click, and all of a sudden she talks about she's going out with so-and-so that she met on the shoot, that, and I'm like, oh, I go on these shoots and I don't really make new friends. Like, what am I doing wrong that I'm not, collecting all these friends from going on all these shoots and interviewing people? Like, do they not like me? And, and I talked to Brian, and there are just going to be some people you click with, and there are going to be more people that you don't click with. And it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with them. It's just, you're meant to be friends with certain people. And there's sometimes I'm just sitting next to someone and I can't make chit chat. I don't know what to say. I run out of ideas. I've run out of things to ask that person. And then there are other people I meet and we hit it off, and it's that classic back and forth, and they ask you questions and you ask them questions. It's because your personalities jive together. And the same can be said for kids. There's going to be people that your kids are going to click with right away. And there are other people that you think should be friends because you're friends with their parents and you want those kids to be friends, but they just don't click. And it's the most natural thing that nobody ever tells you about. You don't have to be friends with everyone. You should be kind with everyone, and you can have a conversation and play with whoever. But there's only a certain few people that your personalities really click with, where you can be totally 100% yourself. And that's what I think is an important message that I try to share with Calvin and Oliver. Don't force yourself to have to get along with somebody. Just be yourself. And if they don't want to hang out with you for being yourself, then maybe you two just aren't meant to be friends. Then find that other person that brings out the best in you and you bring out the best in them. It's hard to say because there are people that say you want to be friends with and it just doesn't work out. But, I think kids sort of go through that naturally, and they ask to have play dates with the kids that they laugh with and have fun playing with. Calvin just started playing soccer, like real soccer, with practice on weekdays and shin guards and all that kind of stuff. And it was so cool to see him out there with new people that he's never met before. And he was like doing a chest bump after he scored a goal. And I was like, where'd you learn how to do a chest bump? Like, he's like, oh, well, Rocco taught me that. And I said, that's awesome. And he loved it. And then sure enough, after practice, Rocco's like, can Calvin stay and play football with me? And I said, well, actually, we have to go home. It's almost bedtime. But I just watched it happen so organically that they both were just laughing and being silly and just truly being themselves. And I never met this kid in my life, and he just popped up into Calvin's life. So I think it's giving ourselves a break and just letting those people come in and out of our lives, and especially the ones that we click with, we tend to hold on to.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a natural process and not one to be forced.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
You said that much more succinctly than I did.
Well, that would have been really boring. That would have been super boring if that was your answer. We would have been done in 5 minutes. So thank goodness that you elaborated. A question from Callie Ann in South Carolina. What is your favorite part of motherhood, and how did you and your husband meet?
Great questions. So first of all, Brian was my cameraman when I worked up in Boston, and we were both on the morning show. So you don't really go out at night, and you sort of meet the people you're with. But Brian and I, for a long time, were really good friends because he's 6 years younger than me. So when I was in Boston, Brian was still in college, living with his parents.
I did not know this.
So, and I look back and I think I used to go to Brian's parents' house and just hang out at Brian's parents' house. And I'm like 30 something years old, like a professional. And I'm just going down to his house. But anyway, so weird. But so that's why we were friends for a while before we started dating. And I kind of let the whole 6-year thing go by because I just, when you know, and he was just, my very best friend, and we just got along so well. So in my defense, though, he does have a brother and sister who are like 10 and 14 years older than him. So he's an old soul. I
don't think there's a defense needed.
I don't know. Sometimes
judging.
I don't put it out there. What was the other part of the question? Sorry.
What's your favorite part of motherhood?
Oh my goodness. Yes. I think my favorite part of motherhood is just watching my whole family cheer each other on. I often call Brian my hype man, because he's that person on the sidelines cheering me on. If I have to talk to my bosses one day, he's like the one who calls me to give me a pep talk before I do anything, and he just builds me up, and he makes me feel like the most special person in the world. And I've noticed we all do that with each other in the house. And at first it was just Calvin, and he's learning to walk, and he's learning to do this, and he's learning to do that, and now he's learning to play soccer, and we're just cheering him on from the sidelines, watching him grow into this person that he's becoming, and watching his coordination get better, and he's just doing better and better at everything. And now when Oliver starts to do better at things, he likes to play baseball, he likes to play golf, so he's got that hand-eye coordination, but he's getting better and better at it. Calvin's the one cheering Oliver on, and Oliver looks to Calvin for his approval, and he's like, Calvin, did you see that? Calvin, I did it. And Calvin in the background's like, good job, Ollie. And Rusty's trying to get up on all fours to crawl. He's sort of doing the army crawl right now. And when he gets up on all fours, now Calvin and Ollie are, come on, Rusty, come on. It's just, there's so much joy and happiness in the house as we cheer each other on, no matter what we're doing. And I love it. I love that we're all just there to support each other. And it's like we created these people. We made these three cool little dudes, and they're just like us.
Yeah. I mean, it is like talk about mind blowing. That is, that is incredible. And, your congratulations again, just like, you're raising your incredible family, and with honesty and candor about it's not always easy.
I try to, because we can all relate. And sometimes when you share the hard parts and the fun parts, parents relate, and they think back to when they did it. I have older parents, who say, I remember when my kids were your kids' age, and now they're 23 and 27, and I miss it. It goes so fast, and I'm just trying to absorb every moment of it right now.
Right. And they're in love with this woman 6 years older than they are. All right. Lori from Montana said, what do you like to do in your free time?
In my free time, I definitely love to golf. That's the thing my husband and I do together. We would rather golf than do anything else. It's 4 hours, 5 hours sometimes on a bad day, that we get to just be outside. We have a couple beers on the golf course, and we're together. And, we're not really checking our phones. We're not watching TV. We're so in the moment, and it's just fun. It's a hobby I picked up because of him. Brian got me into it, and it's what we love to do. And of course, on weekends, when golf's in season, it's always on the TV. So Calvin and Oliver naturally started imitating whatever they were seeing on TV. So we have like a little putting green kind of thing that was supposed to be for adults, but the kids have taken it over, and they'll putt as the players are putting on TV. So they really like golf now. And there's a little, putt course by our house, a little like a par 3 course. So it's legit golf. It's not, mini golf. And we brought Calvin and Oliver out there the other day, and they're having a great time. And it was the 4 of us golfing together. So it's a little hobby that we all just love to do. And hopefully Rusty will get in on that too.
I love that. Yeah. And nice that you found a way to make it work in New York City, which for anyone watching is golf in New York.
It's not.
Yeah. That's
not always easy. You have to budget a lot more time.
Yes. All right. And Corinne from New Hampshire said, what's your favorite meal?
My favorite meal is something I don't get to cook that much because nobody else in the house likes it. I love pork chops on the bone with sweet potatoes and some sort of veggie. If it's canned corn, that's even better. But I try to do something green and healthier. But I'm like the type of person who likes the fat on the side of steak, and I like the fat on the side of pork chops. My mom thinks I'm disgusting, and she hates the bone and all that kind of stuff. But I love, so often, Brian's not a huge pork chop fan. So if I make a nice big bone-in pork chop and I'll broil it, just like salt, pepper, garlic powder, and I'll broil it so it's crispy on the edge where all the fat is. And I'll cut off the middle, like I'll cut out the middle. So Brian gets the little dried out little pork chop with all the meat, and I get the good stuff. So that's my ideal dinner, is to get his scraps and the sweet potato. He won't eat sweet potatoes either, but
I was gonna say, how are you preparing the sweet potato? Many options there. So
If I give myself enough time, I actually like it baked, in the oven. Usually I end up just throwing it in the microwave instead, which doesn't have the nice crispiness on the outside. Butter, salt, pepper. I'm a big fan of salt and butter.
I'm
so
also big on the butter and big on the salt. Well, thank you to everybody who submitted a question. So grateful for
those are great. There's so many different types of
awesome
questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're coming to the end of our time. So just a reminder, the book out as of yesterday, and the URL is up there for you to order it. Dylan, anything you want to share with everybody as parting words? Anything you want to say?
Well, for everybody tuning in today, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the time to hear me. I always just think, why would anybody tune in to listen to me talk? But it just really means so much that you care about this book series, that you all are cheering me on with your support for the book. I hope it's something that you can give to your kids or, read to your grandkids. I'm so passionate about it. I have 3 kids of my own. I'm a meteorologist, so I know the weather. And I really, truly, when I write these books, try not to allow anything to happen that's confusing or anything that wouldn't make sense meteorologically. Sarah, I'm always thinking, well, we can't really do that because the sunbeam wouldn't actually do that, or the cloud wouldn't really travel like that.
Yeah.
And I try to keep it just true. So it's something I love reading with my kids, and I hope you enjoy reading it with yours. And just know I put my whole heart into it. And I'm as hands-on as I can be with these books. So I just thank you for your support, and I hope you like this world as much as I do.
Yeah, well, whole heart indeed. Definitely can say that as Dylan's editor. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. Again, we are talking about Misty the Cloud, Friends Through Rain or Shine. Thank you so much for your questions. Thank you for watching. Again, the URL at the bottom of the screen, and we look forward to talking to you on the next book. Take care, everybody.
Yay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
Hey, this is John Acuff, New York Times best-selling author of 7 books and someone who's done a live signing. If you like the one you just watched, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. It's full of amazing authors having great conversations and signing books for viewers just like you. So make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching today.